It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show. And this conversation is going to get hot. It's so important that you pay attention to this. And the question we're asking is green the new gold? Now, as billions in investment pours in, the cannabis industry is finding itself entering a brand new chapter. Now, businesses are starting to take note of the potential within the cannabis industry, with many investing in hemp-based and CBD products. Now, although government is welcoming cannabis legalization and commercialization, taxing regulations and tight domestic controls stand in the way of creating a prosperous industry. So today we're going to be discussing the road to legalizing cannabis for commerce, and our panel consists of cannabis legal expert attorney Shad Vayej. We've got Shanti Natural CEO Kylie Adams, as well as Gareth Prince, a Rastafarian advocate and chairperson of the Cannabis Development Council. What a panel we have here. How are you all doing? You guys good?
Positive,
Really
positive.
I can't wait to get into these discussions. But let's just keep it broad. Let's intro who you guys are, what you're about, and what you represent in the space. Gareth, maybe I can chat to you first. Chairperson of the Cannabis Development Council. That's your official position right now. But 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, that wasn't the case, man. You were fighting to just be able to practice law and on top of that be associated with the cannabis industry, right?
Correct. You know, 25 years ago, I was excited about making my contribution towards reclaiming and restoring the dignity of indigenous South Africans, and I wanted to do that as a lawyer. And that's what I qualified myself for after completing 2 degrees and an advanced diploma in law.
Oh, wow.
The Law Society deemed me not fit and proper to practice law because I refused to disassociate myself from cannabis. I had a criminal conviction for cannabis possession, and I was not apologetic about my usage of cannabis, and I refused to apologize. And for that reason, the Law Society said that, well, Mr. Prince, lawyers must engender respect for the law. You're encouraging people to break the law. So you're not fit and proper to practice law. And that is when I took the government and the Law Society to court. And the Constitutional Court ultimately decided that, well, cannabis is not part of the solution, it's part of the problem, and therefore it had to be criminally regulated. And that judgment stood for nearly 16 years. And then I was arrested again in 2012, and that brought about the decision that ultimately resulted in the freedom of cannabis for private and personal usage.
Man, what a journey. Activism at its finest, and I think it's still only carrying on, but we definitely are on the greener side of things. And I can't commend you on the work that you've done in that. It's absolutely incredible. Thank you. But we will dive into more of that a little bit later. Shad, while we have you from the law side, I wanted to find out maybe if you can shed light on exactly what the status is in South Africa right now. When it comes to cannabis, what is the yeses, what are the nos, what can we do, and what are we needing to still stay away from?
Okay, so Ralph, we all know that cannabis is a little bit more than just smoking and getting high.
Yeah.
This is a very large industry, and so I like to break it down into sort of 3 segments. You've got your recreational segment, your medical segment, and your industrial segment.
Okay.
So from a recreational perspective, it's still illegal to buy and sell cannabis. However, we do have the 2018 Constitutional Court judgment, which we give credit to Russ Prince for, which allows us to grow and privately consume and use and possess in our private capacities and as adults for our personal use.
Yeah.
Then from the let's say the medical standpoint, the Medicines Act allows SAHPRA, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, to issue licenses to certain companies. These licenses are difficult to come by, but they allow them to import, export, distribute, supply, and essentially conduct commercial activities in relation to medical cannabis.
Okay.
As individuals, we're also allowed to obtain Section 21 permits, and these are unregistered medicine permits, which allow an individual to apply through their doctor to apply to the South African Health Product Authority, or SAHPRA, to access cannabis medicine that is unregistered in South Africa. And then from an industrial standpoint, we've got the Plant Improvement Act, which regulates it's called hemp. We call it hemp, and it is essentially low cannabinoid cannabis. That's cannabis that's used for industrial purposes such as plastics, paper, fuel, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, the Drugs Act, which has a blanket prohibition on cannabis, all parts thereof, doesn't make mention of the Plant Improvement Act. So there's a little bit of confusion as to whether those industrial activities are lawful at present, but there's a debate around that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're heading in the right direction when it comes to the freedom of usage with this, but there still seems to be these gray areas when it comes to how do you trade it, how do you, if you're not in a private space, do you consume it? Are there clubs? So this is something I definitely want to chat to you about in a little bit. But while I have you here, obviously, Kylie, I think it's quite important to also look at the side of business that you come from. And you've managed to kind of create a successful business in the beauty space. With some of these, let's say, restrictions loosening, has that helped you as a business owner, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur? Has it helped your business kind of thrive and flourish in a way? Or are you still struggling? Are you still finding some issues in this space?
You know, because it's such a new, say, and pioneering space that I, of course, have decided to venture in, it does come with these ups and downs. But that should never, of course, stop you from starting a business, because I feel like entrepreneurship is like something that lacks, especially in South Africa. And it's one of those areas that can really bring, you know, upliftment and empowerment in, especially in the situation we're in. So for me, myself, as a small business, I've created this, you know, a business to uplift myself from an employment point of view, but it's also allowed me to unlock governmental assistance through NYDA and Westgrow, which has allowed me also to develop, say, business ethics. So they sent me on courses, how to get my product export ready. So from the time I started until where I am now, things has changed so much, and that is also to adapting as the regulations change and as more opportunities also, you know, present itself to myself.
I love that.
Thank you so much.
In this incredible space, and I think the word empowering is exactly what you've just encompassed there. But thank you again for being a part of this panel. We are going to kick this conversation into another gear in just a bit, so don't go anywhere, Mzansi. For now, though, let's chat about an experience that you're going to absolutely love, and we'll touch base a little bit later.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and let us continue with this so pertinent and much-needed discussion when it comes to cannabis, because cannabis is a historic, multi-dimensional, and sometimes controversial plant, and its versatility and practicality have propelled cannabis in all kinds of industries and products. So why is it still not fully legalized in Mzansi? Well, we're carrying on with the discussion and the road to legalizing cannabis for commerce, and our panel consists of cannabis legal expert attorney Shad Vayej, Shanti Natural CEO Kylie Adam, as well as Gareth Prince, Rastafarian advocate and chairperson of the Cannabis Development Council. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an incredible start to this conversation, learning a bit more about cannabis and what you kind of do in your spaces. Shad, I wanted to chat to you about maybe some more technicalities, just to shed some light on a few things. I know with cannabis in SA, it's been regulated by the Medicines and Related Substances Act, and that's since 1965, right? So it's been a while. Things definitely need to be updated. What exactly does that regulation and the act actually entail? And when it comes to, let's say, THC and CBD, because there is a difference, right? What is the difference, and how does it kind of fare in terms of this act that's been presented since 1965?
Okay, so cannabis has been rescheduled a few times, but when it comes to the Medicines Act, it's only two molecules which we're concerned with. So it's THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the psychoactive high-inducing molecule, and CBD, which is the non-psychoactive, but there's a growing body of work around it from a medical and therapeutic perspective. So THC is scheduled under Schedule 6, unless it's in less than 0.2% THC. And CBD is scheduled under Schedule 4, and unless it's beneath 600 milligrams or 20 milligram per day dosages. So because they're scheduled, it means you have to obtain a medical prescription in order to purchase those products, unless they fall within that exception threshold, and then they're available almost over the counter, as many of people may see in store.
Okay, well, that's interesting. And, I mean, there's all these reasons to, I guess, try to figure out how one can consume, how one can use the product. Kylie, maybe you can assist me with this. I mean, when it comes to, let's talk about CBD, because that's been something that's been trending, for lack of a better word. What are some of those benefits that one can get? I mean, you in the wellness and homeopathy space, what are some of those sort of benefits that we can get from consuming, applying, and using something like CBD as a product?
Yeah, you know, CBD is actually known for its myriad of properties, but one of the things that stands out, it's also for its effects on pain management. So CBD, it's known to actually help your endocannabinoid system manage your pain effectively, and also overall just improve your wellness. So when you use CBD, it also allows you to get the healing without the cycle effects. And so hence CBD is used in skincare, say in wellness products, just because of its versatility as an isolation of the plant itself.
Okay. And that's isolation on that full spectrum. So THC being the full
Yes.
spectrum, CBD is isolated from that.
Yes.
Gareth, when it comes to full spectrum, you're well versed in this topic, let's just say that. And I think more specifically, when it comes to you being a Rastafarian, it is something that's very significant within the faith itself. It's something that you associate with, as you mentioned earlier, for all these years. What exactly is that significance, and what's the importance of it within the faith, within Rastafarianism as well?
You know, in the Rastafari way of life, we describe cannabis as the tree of life because of its ability to affect one's physical as well as metaphysical side. So when we say the tree of life, it has the ability to provide within our economic needs, our social needs, as well as our recreational and well as our medicinal needs, but also in spiritual needs. Now, religion and spirituality is a very important aspect for billions of people on this earth. And as you would well know, religion defies logic and rationality. And what is sacred to one person might be profane to a next person. That is why we must tolerate when it comes to issues of religion. But for the Rastafari way of life especially, we have a very close relationship with cannabis. We consider it to be our sacrament. And therefore, we feel that we should not be limited in our ability to express ourselves and to be able to make a life for ourselves through our association with the plant. And we want to use the fullness of the plant. You know, apartheid was this ideology which held one group of people to be superior and better than others. And we don't want the same thing when it comes to cannabis. We want to consider the plant as a whole and be able to use and exploit all of the plant in order to advance whatever needs we have as a society.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, just on that note, with the amount of uses, the amount of possibilities that this plant does have, I mean, from root to flower, it is endless. And we're definitely going to be diving into more of that and discussing more of this in just a bit. So this panel discussion will continue. It is heating up, and it's a conversation that you want to pay attention to. But for now, though, let's catch up with the rest of the team and see what else we can expect from the world of cannabis.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We're taking this conversation higher. It's the final part, and we are wrapping up this discussion on the road to legalizing cannabis for commerce. Now, our panel, which has been expertly put together this morning, has been awesome. Now, we're talking about our attorney, Shad Vayej. We've got Shanti Natural CEO, Kylie Adam, as well as Gareth Prince, the Rastafarian, an advocate and chairperson of the Cannabis Development Council. You guys have been incredible. This conversation has been superb. We've got so many voice notes that have been coming through. I'd like to just maybe play one or two of them just to get Mzansi involved in the conversation as well. So first one, this one is from Ricardo. I don't know what it is, if it's a question or a statement. Let's hear what Ricardo has to say.
Good morning, Expresso, and good morning, viewers. When it comes to the cannabis and so forth, I fully agree that we should legalize it because it helps a lot of people. I've witnessed it with people having strokes, and it's brought them to walk properly again, speak again. It's a natural herb. It's not a drug. So there is pros and cons, obviously, but it helps a lot of patients. A lot of hospitals use it also. So I completely agree with it. Legalizing is the way to go.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with that over here. Yay to Gareth. And I can just think that just this speaks testament to the power of the plant itself. I mean, there's not much more you need to say about that. Next up, we've got Nolan. I want to get to this one as well. He's got a voice note that's come through. Let's hear what Nolan has to say.
Good morning, Expresso. Good morning to the cannabis panel. My name is Nolan. Thank you for the wonderful work you did in getting cannabis legalized to a certain extent. I have personal experience of using cannabis oil and its healing properties, and it's really a fantastic work that's been done. Just continue with the efforts going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so
advocate, a
much.
user.
We keep on
Someone's-
going.
Yeah, keep going. Someone's speaking about the power of the plant once again. Let's just use this last part of the conversation just to kind of like fine tune a few things in terms of where we're going as well. Shad, let me maybe speak to you about this one. We've decriminalized growing cannabis in our private space at home and utilizing it in our private space at home. What exactly does that mean, number one? And number two, for those that have been prejudiced against or are currently serving sentences that have been caught for the same reason, what happens to them? Is there anything with regards to expungement, or is it just, well, that was in the past, the rules have changed now, so is what it is?
Okay, so to answer the first question, we mentioned earlier the 2018 Constitutional Court judgment, which allowed private adults to possess, use, and consume and cultivate cannabis in their private capacity for their personal consumption. So that is where the law currently stands. The 2018 Constitutional Court judgment had a declaration of invalidity in relation to the illegality surrounding those actions specifically. But that declaration did not operate retrospectively. So unfortunately, what that means is that, you know, if you were convicted of criminal offences before, it didn't wipe those out. However, we have the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill, which is at this stage still a bill, but it does contemplate expungement of criminal records. However, that expungement only concerns use and possession of cannabis and not cultivation, which is a separate offence.
Okay.
So there's still a little bit of work to go there.
All right, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Gareth, maybe I can ask you this. I mean, South Africa, we're known for such powerful, let's call it natural medicines and things of that nature. We've got buchu, we've got rooibos tea, we've got marula. Why is something like cannabis so negatively stigmatized and almost villainized in this day and age? Like, why do you think that's still the case?
In a word, economics. I think it's because of the disruptive power of cannabis. Right now, we've got an energy crisis within the country. Cannabis can alleviate that energy crisis in the sense that we would be able to make diesel for Eskom's generators from cannabis and replace our reliance on coal or other fossil fuels. Cannabis stands to be hugely disruptive in the pharmaceutical industry because the opioid crisis that people currently have, we are able to alleviate or solve that crisis with green medicines. The reality is you can't spell healthcare without THC. So this emphasis on CBD is a bit skewed, and we don't want this dissociative consciousness when it comes to cannabis. We want a holistic consciousness. So there's space for everyone. There's space for those who wants to consume CBD, but there's space for those who wants to consume THC. And just as we allow people to make choices when it comes to whether they want to smoke tobacco or drink alcohol, people should have the right to decide if they want to use cannabis, and they should have the freedom to do that. And when it comes to industry creation, job creation, we need to move the conversation away from recreational usage towards job creation and economic empowerment. And that is where cannabis can play a huge role in bettering the conditions and the economic abilities of the people within South Africa, especially the previously disadvantaged and those who have suffered as a result of their association with the plant.
Absolutely cannot agree more. I mean, we look at how it's just benefited you with regards to Shanti Naturals, and I know it's something that I would love to just sit here and discuss for so long now, but unfortunately running out of time. But if you are wanting to find out more about the benefits of using this product and some of the products that are available, then you can find Shanti Naturals product range. There's some expert advice there. You can also reach her online if you want to find out more about that, and the strapline is online right now. Anything else legally related, then I know Shad is your man, of course, when it comes to that. He's got a plethora of knowledge when it comes to the industry. And Gareth, thank you again for all the work that you've already done in getting us to this monumental point that we are at, and I wish you nothing but the best of success as you further allow us to decriminalize this beautiful, powerful green plant that we've been blessed with. Panel discussions, this was a fine one. I can't thank you all enough for joining us this morning, and for you, Mzansi, for being a part of it. Of course, we are going to be diving more into cannabis and the world of cannabis and everything else that it can do for us. But again, thank you so much for joining in this conversation.
So much,
and thank you, Mzansi, for those voice notes. We loved it.